Welcome to the GeniusLab Podcast. I'm so excited to be back on the mic, making things happen and helping you realize your greatness, because that's what we do here at the GeniusLab. We are fortunate today to have Bill Edson. Now, Bill and I met in a very precarious situation that was completely out of my comfort zone, and he has turned out to be one of the most magnificent human beings I've ever met. And as a matter of fact, he is featured on Hear the Hope Heroes for the month of April and May. And so we wrote a song about his story. He contacted me about, hey, what's a songwriting thing? And I said, it's a story. You're a master storyteller. So send me your story. And so he sent me a story and we bounced it back and forth and came up with a great song. And I'm like, dude, you got to be on the podcast and share your greatness with us. And so, Bill, thank you so much for being here.
Listen, it's so much my pleasure. We've talked on the phone a lot, but we haven't really seen each other. Well, this is as close to face as we've come since we met. It's been 5 years, Toby.
Oh my God. Time flies when you're having fun, huh?
It has been 5 years. And I have to say, I think if it wasn't for that time, during that weekend that we were together, I don't know if we would have ever met, because I think, naturally we're kind of on opposite ends of the ideology spectrum, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think we make a great model because we don't let that interfere with our relationship.
Right.
As I wish the rest of, many of folks in America could just get over the fact that everyone has their opinions. And in fact, our opinions, I think, are very similar. We just look at them in different viewpoints.
Hey, it's totally right. I have a client who's very vocal about their point of view and always wants to point out that we differ. And I'm like, yeah, actually, we don't differ at all. I said, it's kind of interesting. Just because I don't like the people that you support doesn't mean I like the other guys.
Right.
But there's these assumptions that go on. And I think that, one of the things you gave me, one of the greatest compliments that I've ever had on Drum Church. And it was a couple of years ago when the shit was hitting the fan and people were going bonker crazy. And you said, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you've never used this as a political platform. And that really meant a lot to me because I won't ever. And that's, not how I work.
Well, I think we're both people have to step above that fray. We have to not get drawn into that whirlpool of drama.
Yeah.
And let that, interfere with our connection. Because honestly, it would be okay if we differed. It'd be okay if we argued. But when you start losing respect for each other, that's when it just gets out of hand, right? You can still love someone just because you don't agree with what they're doing or what they believe in. We still have to care for each other.
Yes.
And and it's just ridiculous how it's out of hand. And it's too bad that that the media plays into it and everybody else to just churn it up. But I'm here to try to be, I guess, that representative that can just care for people either way. Because my background is medicine. I've been in medicine my whole life, one way or the other.
Yeah.
The song we wrote together was about my experiences in Iraq as a combat medic, and I was a senior medic for an entire battalion, it turned out to be almost 900 men.
Holy
and
smokes.
Yeah, I had 50 plus medics underneath me, and we were, serving the certain region of within Ramadi, Iraq, and providing care. We did over 5,000 combat missions in about a year's time.
Wow.
Not to mention taking care of, doing wellness health, for our troops, just to keep them, in the fight, more or less.
Wow.
So, and that was such a profound time in my life. I learned so many lessons. And now since then, that's 17 years ago when I got home. I think of it every day and I learn from it every day. It correlates with so much of what I'm trying to do, just, making a difference. And, sometimes those lessons come out, even new ones come from that experience, even today. And I think even from writing the song together, it makes me reflect and realize, how impactful that experience is, and how you can use it, to make this place a better place.
Yeah. Well, I love the last verse. It was funny when Bill and I were structuring the song, I said, okay, so here's where you started, here's how you got messed up, and here's how you got better. And he's like, well, we also need to do a wrap up verse. We need a fourth verse, because that's really what keeps going. And it was really great, because it wasn't a traditional songwriting pattern, but it was absolutely a verse that made the song. Because
Yeah, I felt like it.
Your core
I'm
message.
sorry. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's good.
I think we have a little delay.
Yeah.
But I felt that was right. I think you're absolutely right. I think it helped wrap it up in a way that shows, to me, it just made sense. It made the song a little longer though, and I don't know if I like the length of it being longer, but it does make sense within the realm of the story.
So far, everybody that's heard the song is blown away by it, and not one person has said, it kind of drags on. Because I'm when I send it out to my music people, I'm asking for criticism. I'm like, how can we make it better? I never look at how good a project is. I look at, is there any way we can make it better? And not one person has complained about the length of the song, because the content is so riveting that it draws you into the song. And that extra 2 minutes, because I think we went a little bit over 5 minutes, which is,
Yes.
sinful in the music business. It's like, big fucking deal, man. This is how long it takes to do our story, and this is what we're going to do. If you don't like it, cut it off at 2.5 minutes. I don't care. It's a good story, and the verses flow well together from one to the next.
Yeah, and that chorus, man, that chorus is fire.
I can barely sing that and not cry. I mean, and that's just killer.
Same. I mean, I listen to it and it's like, I want to sing that. I want to sing that, but nobody wants me to sing that, believe me.
Oh, that's great.
I mean, I used to sing, but I had neck surgery, and ever since then it affected the I guess the resilience of my voice.
Yeah.
So I can't,
that.
Yeah, I don't think I could sing the whole song without my voice kind of cracking. So, but either way, I'll let you do it, man. That's what you do. That's awesome.
Well, I had a lot of fun. I actually tried to get CJ to sing it, because I've done enough singing on our songs. And he's like, I tried to lay it down, but he said, your voice is the voice for that song. And so
that's awesome.
That's how we did it.
It's meant to be.
In addition to being a songwriter now, and a coach, and a leader, really, someone who doesn't just teach leadership, but who leads by example. That's my observation of you anyway. You inspire a lot of people, and you work with high school kids, college kids. You coach track, is that right?
Yeah, I coach track and field. I'm at the college level right now. This is my 30th year coaching track and field. So
wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at it. And but I don't just do it I just don't do it to try to win championships or make people better athletes. I really use it as a classroom, as a platform to teach valuable lessons of life to these youth who are getting ready to enter into the real world. And I want to teach them these critical life lessons, and equip them to be able to deal with the complexities that they're about to walk into, because a lot of them don't realize the importance of simple things like self-accountability and responsibility to others, mutual respect, work ethic, and there's always lessons of you get out of it what you put into it, and things like that. Those are things that I build into it, and I build into it leader skills too, like communication, genuine relationships, and positive culture, and that sort of thing. So I build all that into the venue of sports, and I've done that for a long time. And really that's kind of my passion for coaching, is not really the wins, the victories, the championships, which I have I guess I've reached all those results. Those are just byproducts of doing it for the right reason, and putting all those things and having kids realize, and I say kids, and they're young adults really, and some of them are adults,
Yeah. Yeah.
and now at the college level, um, but they'll realize that, it's not about the superficial ending of receiving a medal that where the value is.
Yes.
And then so they can come out of there. Really, what I want to do is create better human beings and prepare them for life.
You and I have the same mission, helping people realize their greatness, right?
Yeah.
In different ways. I have a friend in Park City when I lived there. She was on the Olympic ski team for 13 years, longest stay of a female skier in Olympic history, or in U.S. Olympic history. And she skied in 2 Olympics, and she never medaled, and she was devastated on
Mm.
the last Olympics because she knew she wouldn't have the chops to ski another one. In another 4 years, she'd be too old and just wouldn't be able to do it. And so she's distraught, and she's talking to her coach, and her coach says, "Listen, if you're not good enough without one, you'll never be good enough with one. So the medal doesn't matter."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was some really, really good wisdom. So one of the things I always ask everybody is, do you have any regrets along the way? I mean, you've done some amazing things. You've served in the heat of combat. You've helped thousands and thousands and thousands of people in your coaching, in your track coaching. And I know you also have, at least since I met you at that weekend, I've seen you dip your, start creating the bigger thing, the world message that is Bill Edson. Did you ever make any mistakes, or did you have any regrets?
Yeah, and I think that the important thing to recognize is, there's a big difference between making mistakes and having regrets.
Oh, I like it. Good.
Right.
Yeah.
And my feeling personally is, um, the greatness that we both want to share or seek, or we want to help others with, in my perspective, comes from the journey itself, right? It's not the destination of what we're trying to accomplish, but it comes through the journey, and because of that, it really comes from, both the positive and the negative of that journey.
Uh-huh.
And so the mistakes are only mistakes if we don't learn from them.
Good point.
Right. And it doesn't matter. And it doesn't make it any less easy when you cause a mistake. But honestly, I don't have the regrets, because that's, to me, the mistakes or the losses or whatever, the hardship, that's where the personal growth comes from.
Got it.
So my struggles that I had, particularly when I came home with
Yeah.
post-traumatic stress, it was pretty bad. It was pretty deep. I was pretty screwed up. And fortunately, I don't have an addictive behavior, so I never self-medicated or anything like that. Never was
Uh-huh.
into that kind of thing. So I was fortunately not to have to deal with that struggle, but I had some other things that come along with it. But that has created some growth for me. And so, any mistakes or bad decisions I had made along the way, I don't really regret them, because, something pretty good came out from it. It made me stronger on the other end.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
It's always funny when people are talking about, their life, and it seems to me, as I interview people, the most impactful changes that came from their lives were when they screwed something up, or when they made a decision they knew they shouldn't have made, or they made a decision they didn't realize the full consequence of, and it turned out to blow up in their face. It seems like the more impactful lessons come from those sorts of situations, rather than, yeah, I came in first in this marathon. It's not that. It's like the bloody feet while they're training, and the hardship of climbing mountains or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I'm looking for more hardships so that I can have more lessons. Give me a freaking break. But
No, but I mean, we could take the ones that we are experiencing now, right? And just understand that is part of a growth process. I don't think that's going to ever, I think that's always going to be there, no matter what stage in life we're in.
yes.
Right. And, I have my challenges too, things happen to me too. And I just, you just kind of have to weather that storm and realize there's going to be something good that comes out on the other side. And it does make it easier, I guess, or at least you're able to, accept the hardship at that time, work through it, knowing that at some point you're going to be at a better place. Because that's the point. I mean, you got to keep moving. Like, what choice do you have?
Right.
I mean, that's the one thing that I really learned through this last 17 years. And I still have my bad nights every now and again. Mm-hmm. It's like, what choice do you have? I mean, you have two choices, right? You can just die, just stop.
Yeah.
Or you got to keep going. It's not really, to me, there's not a choice. You just got to keep moving,
Well, and I think this is a thing that you realize that you pass on I think it was the third verse or the verse where you were at a place of suicide. I held it up to my head, but I couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. There was just way too much to lose. And the thing that I realize, and because I see it in your posts, you're always doing things that you want to do to show your creative capacity, like your new patio. But what was it for? It was for the cookout. It's so my family has a better place. There's a thing higher than yourself, greater than yourself, that you're working towards and that you're working with. And I remember one time at drum church, you came in late and you said, we went to faith church and then we hurried home so we could be at drum church. And I'm like, I just freaking love this guy and your passion for goodness, for positivity, and the fact that you don't see these things as a contradiction, but as deep. What do we want to say? Maybe everything contributes to everything.
Yeah.
And when you find things that you resonate with, the language might be different, but the spirit is the same.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I brought back home from Iraq was that I witnessed the worst side of humanity. All right. I witnessed so much death and destruction that looking back on it was so senseless because of why? Because of difference of ideology, because our leaders couldn't get together, because I mean, it's when you really think about it, it was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Right now, I understand the extremist side, even both sides, could be viewed as extremists in that conflict, depending on what side you were standing on, mm-hmm. But we're just so much above that. And for us to go out and kill each other, I mean, the things that I dealt with at such a personal level with, seeing, having, comrades of mine, fellow soldiers killed and wounded that I had to deal with, and seeing the pain that brought their families, and then seeing the civilians that I worked with on the other side, even the enemy that I took care of, struggling through this I guess interface of conflict. And that really just made me realize that, the greater picture is, and I'm not a hippie tree hugger, like peacenik. I'm a pretty conservative dude who believes that there can be just conflict, but to experience at that level, I think just makes me realize that, man, it's, it is all about the big picture. And honestly, the trauma and all that stuff that I experienced, of course, contributed to my challenges when I got home. But another big thing that was very difficult for me was the transition out of the military. Because shortly after I got home, I retired. I served 23 years.
Oh, wow.
And I retired. I was getting ready to actually be deployed within the next year or so to Afghanistan, but it would take a reenlistment, and they would have promoted me into a higher level of leadership. And I kind of wanted to serve to 30 years, and really reach very senior levels. Uh-huh. And Carol, my wife, she was like, you could do that, but I'm not so sure our family can handle another, deployment. I'm not so sure we're going to have a family when we get home.
Uh-huh.
And so, you know, it wasn't a threat. It was just a statement. Yeah, I had a choice of reenlisting or retiring. And I went complete full circle in my military career. Did some unbelievable things, not just in Iraq, but throughout my career. And it owed me nothing, and I owed it nothing. But I
Uh-huh.
owe my family everything.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
I retired. I absolutely have no regrets about it. I wonder what it would be like to be, at a higher level and do some of the things I wanted to do in my military career, but I owe it nothing, and it owes me nothing. It's very profound experience. But what I had troubles with that at that point was I lost the sense of purpose that was greater than myself. I mean,
Got it.
serving my country, and particularly the way I did, because when I was in Iraq, besides doing the medic thing, I was part of a mission that brought care to a family that was in the city of Ramadi, and we led a covert medical mission into this home, and I connected with this family and really got to understand, their side of things,
Mm-hmm.
and help save this mother's life over a span of 3 months, going in
Wow.
and taking care of her. It made me realize that, I was, and that in turn started, I guess, this cascade of really incredible things that led the early, uh, it led the early movements of the city becoming, free again. And because of the connections that we made within this part of the city.
Wow.
And yeah, and so it was like, wow, here I did this thing. I felt like it was a part of world history, a world changing history to help liberate the city of Ramadi. I get home and I'm going to go back to work and be a medical salesman, or I'm going to go work in the operating room, which was the worst place for me to be at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that was my skill set too. Um, and I just felt like there's nothing that's going to match up to this level. I had a really tough time with that. A really tough time to regain my sense of purpose away from the military. So that added to the trauma and everything. And I still kind of, I still struggle with that at times, but it helped me realize my mantra, right? And that is to leave this world a better place than how I found it. And so, I'm kind of doing what I can do to make those differences. I wrote the book that I wrote,
and tell us about the book, because our listeners might want to connect with that. So
yeah, thank you.
Pitch it, man.
Yeah, man, thanks. So COVID came and all the sports shut down, and we got locked in. So I couldn't coach, couldn't do anything. So I did a webinar for athletes to help them cope with the loss of just having their sports yanked right out from under them, particularly seniors who lost their last chance to compete, all this other stuff. So, but during that time, I'm sitting around twiddling my thumbs, like, how can I contribute? What can I do? And then I just realized, you know what? This is a perfect time for me to write the book I've always wanted to write, just to see if I could do it. And I had all this time. So I sat down and I wrote a book. It's called, they call me Coach E, leading to achieve the unachievable. So it's on Amazon. You can find it. Cool. And it's really about leadership skills, but it's from the perspective of me as a coach, and leadership principles too. It's kind of a conversational read. It's really easy to read, but I just wanted to be able to do it. So I wrote it and self-published it in 5 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's record fast.
So, I mean, it was just all these thoughts. It just kind of flowed out. Mm-hmm. And probably, I don't even like to read it myself, because it's like, you're first of everything when you go back to it, it's like, oh, I can do so much better than this.
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah. But I think people like it just because it is conversational and there are some lessons in there. And so I wrote the book, and as you said, I like to speak. I like to speak about my experiences. that I went through and make them relevant for people. Um, and I've done, leadership workshops, and of course I coach, as you've mentioned. And I think any place that I can have a touch point or a platform
Yep.
to try to, fulfill that mantra of making this place, better than how I found it. And I tell you, I got that from serving in the military, of showing up during trainings to these awful barracks where they would stick us, these old World War II wooden barracks, and they were
Yeah.
awful. Sometimes you have to shoo the possums out or whatever. It was awful. But
Oh,
we would always fix them up, and we would always leave our area better than how we found it.
nice.
And so I've kind of applied that, and there's some other lessons in there. Always continue to better your defensive position, or always improve your position, right? That's one thing. And that does two things. That makes you stronger, and it also pushes away, I guess, being sedentary, or what's the word? Complacency. So again, that's the importance of always moving, or always improving, trying to make things better, is that you want to kind of avoid that complacent, sedentary space in your life, because that's where all the bad juju happens.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, God, thank you so much, Bill. We're running out of time, and I would like to have you on again, because I think there's way more for us to talk about. And I know the listeners, the audience that I have on this podcast, you're a really good fit. So I hope you'll come back again.
Anytime, you name it.
All right. Well, before we go, I would like you to take your one golden nugget of advice for the people listening. If you got people there, everybody wants to be the best they can be. That, people are struggling with stuff. The world's messed up. It's hopeless, blah, blah, blah. I hear it all in the therapeutic work that I do. I deal with people that have terminal diseases in their body and terminal diseases in their mind. And what advice would you give, whether it's young or old, people who have gotten off track, who have let this craziness that's in the world completely throw them off balance? What would be your Coach E's advice?
Yeah, there's two things that come to mind, but it's really part of the same thing. And I think one is to have a sense of purpose greater beyond yourself. Right? You've got to have a reason to be there, and to keep going, right? So no matter what, you've just got to keep moving, right? Keep moving forward, keep going. And if it's that greater purpose that drives you to take the next step, even if you feel like you're done and you just want to call it quits, you've got to keep moving, right?
Nice.
I think Winston Churchill said it. It said, if you're going through hell, just keep going. Because you're going to come out of it sooner or later. But you've got to keep going. You've got to keep moving, right? Beautiful. Good things come from movement.
Beautiful. Bill, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. We'll look forward to further episodes with you here in the Genius Lab, and appreciate it very much. For everybody, I will post Bill's information so you can get his book. Assume you have a website.
You know what? I really don't right now.
Okay.
I have an old website from a kind of a previous small little LLC that was going on. It's called guideonstrategies.com. But
okay. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to?
I think they could, just connect with me on Facebook. Just, reach out, message me, or friend me.
Beautiful.
You can find me. I have a leadership development group that I started a few weeks ago. I would love people to join, because this is the type of content that I want to talk about as I get going. Because right now I'm working a couple of jobs. I don't have a lot of time to do what I really want to do, but when I can get in there, I want to build that community so that we can just kind of, do what we've been talking about, just make a difference going forward, using leader skills and how we apply them, no matter what we do for work or what we do in our life.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Again, thank you so much, Bill. And thank you for being here. And thank
Oh,
you
you're
for your
welcome.
service and all that you have done for us.
Well,
Appreciate it.
thanks for having me.
You bet.